are now tuned in to the Lineman Lounge, the world's thickest sports podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Evo.
Come on, Stan, bitches. This is the Lineman Lounge. I am Mike. That is Evo, and we are back. It is a beautiful Sunday morning. A little chilly out here in the state of Ohio, but I am ready for some fucking football today. It is a massive week for the Browns. Massive week for a lot of teams. We got a lot of good games this week. We got some dog shit ones as always, but this is going to be a great weekend of football. But I am absolutely fucking pumped to be here. Evo, my man, I know you just got back from a very long trip. You were out in our neck of the woods out in Ohio. How'd the trip go? How's everything been? And are you ready to watch some football for today?
Yeah, man. Trip went, all things considered, relatively pretty good. Hi, Bert.
Fucking asshole, man.
And I am tired as the wings of a bird. I tell you what, I'm tired. A lot of flying, a lot of time changing and whatnot. But I'm happy to be here. I'm happy that it is football Sunday. I last watched football out there in Ohio on Sunday, and now I'm back home, so that's nice. Kind of puts my timeline on my trip. And so, yeah, I'm stoked. A lot of fun games this week. I've already placed a decent amount of bets this morning.
Nice.
So I'm mostly centering around my game, to be completely honest. But this is a big one for me because obviously, like, rivalry game, Packers and Vikings is usually like my bread and butter. That's what I would get pretty excited for.
Right.
But my squeeze, my significant other, is a Broncos fan passively just because she happened to once reside in Colorado for a little bit. So, of course, a Vikings-Broncos game, especially during prime time, that amps up the tension a little bit in the house. And I can't wait to fucking slap the dog shit out of Sean Payton. Because Vikings fans just have a hatred for Sean Payton in general after the whole Bounty Gate thing. And we've pretty much taken it to the Saints since Bounty Gate happened. Knocked them out of the playoffs a couple times. We'll bought them pretty much every year that we play them. So I'm excited for football. I'm excited.
Hell yeah. Me too. Fuck the Broncos. I've always been a Broncos hater, but I'm a Browns fan. And I'm not sure if our feed is coming through the right way onto our Facebook group. So if you're not seeing that, I apologize. Go over to the YouTube. If producer Amber could figure out what's going on with that and share that video to our Facebook group, that'd be super cool because I'm not sure that it's there right now. I had to reset up some links on StreamYard, which is where we go live. It looks like things might be not going exactly the way they were intended to be set up because it shows that I am live as opposed to us being live on the Facebook group. So
I think it's done that in the past, though. I think it showed you being live, but I'm not positive.
But if producer Amber could maybe track down what the hell's going on with that and share accordingly, since we are in the middle of the show, that would be greatly appreciated. Shout out producer Amber. Love you, baby. By the way, I'm fucking our producer.
Oh, God. There's a conflict of interest.
Conflict of interest for sure. But all right, man. So we got a lot of shit to go over today. We got to make sure that we get this thing done before games start. So I'm ready to kind of start diving into the world of sports. But we're going to turn back the page before we look ahead. We're going to take a look back at yesterday, some college football. Yesterday was a pretty important day for quite a few teams. Big wins. Washington goes out, gets a huge win, absolutely needs to get a win there. Their playoff, hopes ride on them continuing to win. Florida State gets a win as well, but they're playing North Alabama. Florida State, however, loses possibly a crucial piece of that team. Jordan Travis getting hurt. That could really hurt their chances to make the playoffs. Washington beats number 11 Oregon State in a close game. But, I mean, a 5-11 win looks a lot better than number 4 beating North Alabama. So there's a possibility that there could be a shakeup in who's in the top 4. And there were a couple other games throughout the day. Interesting scores, a lot of close games, a couple fucking blowouts. But your big takeaway from yesterday's, day of college football, it was interesting what you had for me before the show started. So why don't you tell people what you noticed from yesterday and just a team that kind of comes out of nowhere at you?
Yeah. So, and this is probably a little bit more of soda straw effect here of me living in Arizona, but the Arizona Wildcats, they've been on a fucking tear. They were able to beat Utah yesterday, 42-18. That's number 22 ranked Utah, and Arizona is ranked. They've been ranked this week and last week, I believe, when they finally got into the rankings. Maybe it was a little bit earlier that I can't remember, but they've been on a tear, 5-game winning streak. They've beaten Washington State, who is ranked, Oregon State ranked, UCLA, Colorado, and Dion, and then this week Utah, and they have Arizona State next week. And Arizona State got the living dog shit kicked out of them this weekend. So it should be another climb in the rankings there for Arizona. They're currently sitting at, I believe, 17. Yeah, 17 currently. They're probably going to make another jump, which is I can't honestly remember in my time living here in Arizona the Wildcats doing this well and being this highly ranked. They are definitely a feisty team that's kind of come out of nowhere and was unexpected to be doing this well. I mean, they took losses earlier in the year to Washington, USC, and Mississippi State, but
those are 3 pretty damn good teams, though.
Sure, yeah. So, like, the fact that they are doing so well right now, it's definitely impressive. Yeah, I'm excited for that team. That's kind of who I'm watching team wise in college football right now, because as I've spoken about before, I generally watch prospects and seeing how everyone is doing for that's going to be draftable and whatnot. And so watching specific teams is not necessarily my cup of tea, but that Wildcats team, I'll keep watching them for the rest of the year just because I can tell that the local fan base is getting hyped up. Speaking of local fan bases, like, everybody in Ohio yesterday is wearing goddamn Buckeye shit.
Oh yeah, dude. That is a cultural phenomenon out here. It does not matter if you are in Cincinnati, Toledo. It doesn't matter where you are. You are an Ohio State fan. The only time that you are not an Ohio State fan is if you are literally a student of one of these other schools. Like if you went to the University of Cincinnati or the University of Ohio, maybe you root for those teams, but almost always you still are a Buckeyes fan at heart, unless you were corrupted by some family member at a young age and you became a fan of that team up north. So it's wild that how deep those roots run here in the state of Ohio.
And by that team up north, you mean Michigan?
I'm not. Yeah. The cheaters. Listen, that team up north. We're already in prep. As soon as that game ended yesterday for Ohio State, prep started. So we do not speak that name for this entire fucking week. The goddamn cheaters, the team up north, they have no true name at this point because it is that week. So Muck Fishigan. And yeah, let's roll. I'm ready. I am ready to take those assholes down this weekend after all the shit that has happened, all the shit that has been talked. I'm ready to kick the shit out of it.
Yeah, it should be an interesting one. Harbaugh accepted, initially was going through the courts to fight that suspension, that 3-game suspension, but when it had just accepted it, got it over with. I believe they fired their linebackers coach for potential involvement with this whole situation through the NCAA's findings. I believe that there is also reports of Uncle T being a big-time donor being involved. Taylor Lewan. Yeah. I was like, I don't know that it is, but I'm
gonna make it. We're gonna toss it out there.
Lewan and that mustache. He seems like a great, funny villain. But yeah, the whole situation is kind of, I don't want to say working itself out, but I mean, I think that they are doing the best job that they can to almost push us under the rug right now. And because in today's society, it's what's next, and that's so last week to talk about them stealing signs. What is interesting though is that they won yesterday 31-24, but that was to Maryland, who I don't think anyone expected it to be that close.
Listen, Maryland's a pretty good team. As somebody who watches a lot of Big Ten football, Maryland can play. They stuck around with us for a little while as well.
Just only beating them by a tud, though.
Only beating them by a touchdown is interesting, especially because their team, that defense of theirs, scored 10 points for them yesterday. They got a fumble recovery for 6 and 2 safeties. So that defense scored them 10 points, and they still only won by 7 points. For a team like Maryland, I feel like you should be better. Their offense has not been great. They have not been clicking. Ohio State has been doing a very good job of stopping the run. So I am excited for, JJ McCarthy, Blake Corum, and that team up north to get their asses handed to them on a silver platter when they try to run it and they find absolutely no room.
All righty.
I'm pumped for this one. It's been a while since I've gotten real hype for a Michigan game because the rivalry, while it is still the biggest rivalry in college sports, it has not felt as big as it has been in years past because Michigan almost did it. Almost did it. The team up north. I threw on the brakes, baby. I threw on the brakes.
Mm-hmm.
They have been dog shit for quite a while. They have just recently started to get better. Now, what helped that? I don't know. Maybe their signs helped. Maybe they didn't. But the rivalry has not been a rivalry in quite some time. But now that is starting to really feel like it's a rivalry again.
All righty. Well, either way, I'm sure that'll be a topic of conversation a little bit next week, especially once we do like a Thursday show or something like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because we're going to have to figure some things out because this upcoming week we got Thanksgiving. We're going to have football games on Thanksgiving. We want to make sure that we get those picks out for you guys as well because we are hitting at a very hot clip. We are not quite ready to reveal our picks from last week yet. We're going to dive into one more topic before we start talking about the NFL, and that is Major League Baseball. Like I said, we're going to go back before we go forward. Going back to a Major League Baseball season has been well over now, but the awards have been released. And in the first time in the 92-year history of the MVP award, both league MVPs have been selected unanimously. Shohei Ohtani and Ronald Acuna Jr. Congratulations to those guys. Ronald Acuna, I thought for sure was going to win just based on his pure numbers. 40 home runs, 70 stolen bases, never fucking been done before. It's insane the numbers that man put up this year. He absolutely deserves it. But Shohei, a guy that was on pace for sure to win the MVP until he gets hurt. Are we surprised that he still receives unanimous MVP selections even after missing a good portion of the season there at the end, not pitching and only hitting? What you got? What do you think? Think it was still the right call? Were you expecting a unanimous decision still for Shohei?
I don't know that it would be out of the realm of possibilities. That's I'm not surprised necessarily that it's unanimous for both AL and NL, and specifically Shohei with him not playing as much. Shohei is probably one of the most exciting, if not the most exciting, baseball player, not just here in the U.S. but internationally. And that sort of pull on the game, it's always tough, and that's why I sit here pausing. It's like it's tough to call or to start drawing comparisons between like a Michael Jordan or something like that. And I could see Michael Jordan sitting out part of the year and still winning, a unanimous MVP type thing back in his time. And so there's a lot more star power, I guess, in baseball, maybe, but and a lot of recency bias.
Shohei there is.
Yeah. But there's recency bias that we have to deal with in today's society, and people are going to be like, what happened most recently, what happened in the playoffs, things like that, and usually we'll try to focus on that. But at the same time, Shohei is just so electric as a player that it doesn't really surprise me too much that he was able to win it unanimously.
I mean, Shohei was one of the best players all year. Wasn't until the end where he ends up, messing up the UCL. Possibly needs Tommy John again. I'm not even sure if he has done the surgery yet, because I have not kept up with Shohei and what his rehab is. But congratulations to both guys. Unanimous for the first time in both leagues. Like, they've seen unanimous guys before, but never in the 92-year history have they had both guys be unanimous. So shout out to them. Congratulations to both of those guys. But with that, man, I'm ready to move on. I'm gonna start diving into the NFL. Let's get into some picks, and we'll take a look at the Thursday night game and kind of the ramifications of some of the things that happened from Thursday night.
All righty, let's do it.
All right, so guys, I'm gonna pop up our picks here. Last week was a damn good week. Let's see here.
Otani has that surgery, by the way.
He has that. Okay.
September 19th.
All right. So last week, good week. Very, very good week. On the week, I went 11-3. Evo, you went 10-3-1. I am 89-59-2. Evo, you are 148-2. Those numbers, I verified afterward, puts us both at a 60% or above hit rate right now on our bets, which is, I feel very, very happy about, very impressive by us, in my opinion. I will toot our own horn, hitting, not just money line picks, but we got spreads in there. We got all sorts of stuff. To hit at a 60% clip is pretty goddamn good. And I want to keep that rolling, but did not start great for me on Thursday night. I took the Bengals plus the points. And we'll talk about that Thursday night game. But, man, impressive week from both of us last week. I thought the Bills were going to pull it off, but that team continues to absolutely just struggle. Doesn't know what the hell they're doing. I'm not sure they know what their identity is right now.
Well, offensively, things like we'll get into it when we get into that game. That's an interesting topic in general, because that is a team off the fucking tracks in turmoil.
Oh yeah, they are struggling, and somebody had to pay for it. Ken Dorsey paid that price. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to that game. Really happy that your Ravens money line pick did not hit. Browns pull out an absolute stunner and get the dub. Lions give you the push. Now we're tied in ties. And then the Titans we were both on, and the Bengals we were both on. But I mean, with that, that's a great week, man. That is an absolutely great week. 11-3, 10-3-1. I thought I was going 12-2 because I didn't think the Bills were going to fuck me over, but they did. But into this next week, I took the Bengals and the plus 3.5 points. I felt really good about that. I thought they had a shot. They come off a tough loss, a must-win game, and they can't get it done. But they can't get it done because Joe Burrow is hurt. Joe Burrow is done for the year now. We get that news. Apparently, he was hurt before the fucking game even started. There are people screen capturing all sorts of things. It looks like there's a brace on his wrist as he's coming into the game. So obviously, the NFL is investigating. It's not great for the Bengals. Why is he off of the injury report? Like, what the hell is going on? Because if I know anything about Joe Burrow being hurt, I don't take Joe Burrow on Thursday night. I think that's a lot of people's frustration, especially when it comes to sports books, things like that. Dave Portnoy was super pissed because he lost a shitload of money because essentially the Bengals season's over now, right?
Yeah. All credit to their backup. I can't think of his name right now.
Jake Browning played well coming in.
Yeah, former Washington Husky. He's probably playing as well as he did because he spent a couple years in the Vikings practice squad, and we just do so well with developing quarterbacks. But
thanks for
yeah, that's
on, by the way.
But yeah, it's interesting. Now I am not an expert on the NFL rules as far as when you have to designate a player as being injured, so on and so forth. Like, if a guy has a cold, sometimes a team will list them on the injury report and things like that, at least if they don't practice. I'm assuming Joe Burrow practiced all week. And let's be completely honest. There's probably not a single football player who's playing at 100% right now.
No.
You know, at this point in the season, no one is without some sort of injury. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Anyways, so with that in mind, you realistically would be putting every single player on the injury report, saying like this guy's got bumps, bruised, dings, things like that. And for all we know, that wrist injury, and this is probably what the Bengals are going to purport, is he had like a little bit of tightness in his wrist or something like that, or whatever you want to call it. They're going to downplay it
Something
as
minuscule, a bump and bruise that we didn't know turned into something worse.
Yeah, and potentially that's what it could be. I mean, not to make this about me, but when I blew my knee out and I tore my patellar tendon and everything, I had been having relatively significant pain in it all through 2-a-day practices and stuff like that. And I was taking shitloads of ibuprofen to the point that I was pissing blood. And when I would go to the trainer, he would basically be like, it's all right. Just ice it and you'll be fine. Little did I know that patellar tendon was slowly tearing until it got to the point that it could no longer hold together anymore and completely tore. So, this could be a thing where he's maybe not reporting it as much, or he's just going to the trainer being like, yeah, my wrist is a little bit sore or tight or whatever. And they don't do their due diligence. And you think when they have such a large investment on a guy that they would.
Yeah.
And so who knows what happened inside that locker room as far as getting him checked out. Who knows why, or if he was really wearing a brace or something like that. Who knows? The NFL is going to investigate. They probably won't find a whole lot. Either way, the main thing is that this pretty much ends the Bengals season. We talked on Thursday night. The Bengals needed that win in order to have a chance at getting to the playoffs this year and making a run. They lost that game, and they lost the most important player on their team, Joe Burrow. So that is, sorry, Bengals fans, it is probably over for you at this point because Browning, he's not going to be the next best thing. He will probably get you a win here or there, but you have a tough schedule coming up for the rest of the year to begin with.
They have the hardest schedule, I believe.
Yeah, especially with the defenses that you have that you're going to be going against. It's going to not be a walk in the park. So that's a real tough situation for those Bengals fans. It's a tough situation for me. I mean, I posted on the Lineman Lounge Facebook page a bet that I had made. It looked like it was, okay to possibly hit as the game was going along until Burrow went down because it required 2 Joe Burrow passing touchdowns. So, lost me some money that day. But yeah, that's a tough loss there for the Bengals. And it is probably now time to think about regroup, rebuild, see what you got in some younger guys, things like that, because it's you were already in 4th place.
Yeah, they're already in 4th place. They're going to remain in 4th place. They're not going to win enough games. I mean, the other 3 teams in this division have been winning. I still don't think the Steelers are that great. Shocker. I mean, I'm a Browns fan and we're playing them today. But listen, they're going to end up next year with a 4th place schedule, and they're the Bengals. As long as Joe Burrow comes back healthy next year, that team is competing again next year. This year, injuries got the best of you. That's what hurt your team all year. Joe Burrow at the beginning of the year. Now Joe Burrow again. You can't win in this league without a quarterback. It sucks. I mean, it sucks. I feel for Bengals fans, but also at the same time, fuck Bengals fans. Like, you guys have been good. You have a guy that you love in your quarterback. He's going to be back. You're going to be fine. Take the L this year and then move on and get ready for next year. As a Browns fan, that's the only way you can go about it.
There's a lot of good to find in this if you are Bengals fans. It is going to get you a better draft pick. You are going to lose more games. You're going to get a better draft pick. It's not like you are going to find like have a heartbreaker in the wild card or something like that and then just feel really hurt about it. The other thing, Joe Burrow consistently through his NFL career has had injury issues, right? So him having this injury at this point in time in the season and have already been nursing that calf through the entire year, he will probably be the most healthy that he has been at the start of next season. barring another injury setback or something that happens in the preseason or training camp or something, like you could be looking at this Bengals team that normally starts off real slow. They're losing their first, couple games to because of a health issue with Burrow, to now you've got Burrow, the healthiest he's been in his career to start off the year, better draft position, so you can get better compensation there. And you would have played this, last stretch of your year, probably playing guys that you normally wouldn't get a whole lot of playing time. That's better for their development and better for your ability to say, hey, is this guy someone that should be on our roster going forward? So there's a lot of pros to find in this. And yes, as a Browns fan and a Vikings fan here, we know what losing seasons look like. We know what rough seasons look like. And so we know how to find the good things and the bad. So take it from us. This isn't the end of the world for you guys. You guys are still a very strong team. This is now the beginning of your off season to an extent. And use that to your advantage and come back firing.
Yeah, there's no reason to make any other, take the loss, get the better draft pick. You're going to have guys you need to replace anyways. T. Higgins probably not re-signing. The higher your draft pick at this point, the better it is for you. You lose that. Even if you keep Joe Burrow and you lose that game, the odds of making the playoffs become much, much harder. Because the schedule is so fucking brutal for the Bengals. Not that injuries are ever a good thing, but getting a chance to sit back and rebuild your team, continue to improve that offensive line, find a guy to replace T. Higgins with, those are all positives, net positives in my opinion. Bengals fans won't want to hear that right now because they're still dealing with the fucking shock of their season being done. But in a week or two, you'll be like, okay, it's fine. This team's gonna be back next year.
Yeah. And I wouldn't count out T. Higgins possibly still staying there with the Bengals, not by choice, but by franchise tag. They do have a bit of an interesting situation because Jamar Chase is one of the only notable wide receivers on that roster that is actually going to be under contract next year. Tyler Boyd is a free agent, and T. Higgins is a free agent. Now, T. Higgins, I feel like he had a down year, and I feel like he's a little bit overrated. He's been great up until this year, and then this year he's just kind of fallen off a little bit here. But still, if you want to maintain that high-powered, potent offense with multiple passing options, you got to try to retain a couple of those guys. And Tyler Boyd he's a really good slot guy, but he's been there forever. You're going to have to start worrying about age and things like that and him slowing down. I mean, obviously, not this game, but last week, he had a good game statistically, but he dropped, a game-winning touchdown in the end zone. Those issues are going to continue poking their head. So the stuff that I have listened to, there's a thought that the Bengals might work on trying to get a long-term extension with T. Higgins, but that the franchise tag will probably be the initial route and then trying to work on a deal from there. And if they can't get something done, then working on trading him to try to get a little more compensation. But who knows? T. Higgins will probably be one of the bigger wide receivers talked about in this offseason as far as free agent targets and things like that.
All right. So I got nothing else on Thursday night game. We're ready to start picking games for the rest of the week, brother.
Absolutely. Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
All right. So starting off here, our 11 o'clock slate for me, 1 o'clock for you. We have this. No, we're not doing that one yet. The Bears and the Lions, an NFC North matchup. The line is currently Detroit -7.5, over under of 48.5. This game is being played out there in Detroit. Detroit got that win last week versus the Chargers in a barn burner. It seemed like there was just no defense being played at all. Lions have covered 11 straight divisional games. So they are, 7.5 is a larger number, but it is the Bears that they're going against. Now, the Bears are getting Fields back, I believe. I believe he's expected to start this game.
That's the last news that I saw, is that he should be playing today.
Yep. And the Bears have also lost 6 straight against the spread. So the Lions absolutely should win this game. I think that that's a foregone conclusion. The question is, are we going to bet the spread at all in this one, or are we just going to take the easy route here?
So I'm actually going to drop the points here, man. The Lions are bad. They're not. I'm not the Jesus Christ. The Bears are bad. The Lions are good.
Yeah,
Matt
we've had a
Eberflus.
lifetime of saying that, so it's
I
okay.
know. Yeah, Freudian slip there. Matt Eberflus is bad. 8-17-2 against the spread in his career. It's fucking atrocious. And the Lions are 5-0 this year against teams that have a losing record. So 5-0 against the spread. I love the Lions in this game. I think they can win this by 10, maybe even fucking 2 tuds. So drop in 7.5. I feel very confident about that. This Lions team is on a roll. They have their full complement of weapons, should be healthy, ready to go. Give me the Lions minus 7.5.
Okay. I'm going to take the Lions money line here because the Justin Fields part of it does scare me a little bit. Maybe he provides a little bit of spark. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Like he's got, that wrist issue that could cause some grip strength problems, both for, potential fumbles and throwing. They're playing indoors in Detroit, so the weather and cold isn't going to be much of a factor there. It'll probably be more of an issue going forward, but you never know with Justin Fields because he does have the potential to kind of catch teams off guard with his electric play style, running the ball, things like that. If they kind of stick to that a little bit more with him, that they hadn't been doing that early in the year. My main question here is going back to Eberflus. Is he probably gone?
Gotta be. I mean, when you think about what they're gonna have as ammunition going into this offseason, they still have multiple first-round picks. They have Justin Fields. They're going to be in position to possibly have 3 first-round picks. I don't think anybody will give up a first-round pick for Justin Fields at this point, though. But they can still easily move off of him, get more draft capital, have 2 top 5 picks, and maybe a back end first, top end of the second pick with getting rid of Justin Fields. Is Matt Eberflus the guy that you think can take a rookie quarterback and build a team around and use all of this draft capital that you got to make this team truly competitive? I don't see him as that guy. I don't think he's ever been looked at as that guy. It would not surprise me, and I saw the reports out this morning, Harbaugh to the Bears would make a ton of sense. Harbaugh is a guy that knows how to help build programs up, has done it before. Like, that makes sense. I don't think Eberflus can be the guy.
It's his old team, that he played for. It does make a ton of sense. At the end of the day, I agree. I think Eberflus is he showed with the Colts that he is at least a decent defensive coordinator. But as a defensive head coach, you have to have one hell of an offensive coordinator to bring in a rookie quarterback and have them be developed. And Luke Getsy ain't that guy. He's shown that this year that he is unwilling to maneuver his system around to best fit. Again, a guy who can be super dynamic at quarterback in Justin Fields. I'm not a huge fan of his style of play because it's more running than passing, but I think that he has the capability of being at least as good of a passer as a Lamar Jackson. And that's basically what he's turned into, is like a super discount Dollar Tree Lamar Jackson, right? Except for the passing game doesn't even really have a chance to flourish because they aren't manipulating the system to allow him to be as good as he could be as a passer. So yeah, Luke Getsy 100% has to be gone. But at the end of the day, I think Eberflus is probably got to be gone as well. And that brings me to my next question. This isn't just for this game, but in today's modern NFL, is there truly a place for a defensive head coach to be hired anymore? I can see you going with a special teams guy, like a Dave Tube from the Chiefs, who is well known around the league as just being a fantastic coach as a special teams coordinator. And that's the type of guy that would then bring in like talented offensive and defensive coordinators with him to run his whole scheme. But I mean, the way the NFL has been going with these offensive coaches going places, I mean, we do have D'Amico Ryans, obviously.
I was going to say, the answer for me is yes, because of guys like D'Amico Ryans. But the only way it works is you have to have somebody truly fucking special at the quarterback spot. You cannot have a run-of-the-mill guy and then a defensive head coach. Now, there are some great defensive head coaches. Bill Belichick, defensive head coach. Obviously, the greatest coach in NFL history. So one of the most Super Bowls. Like, he is a stud. But he had somebody truly special in Tom Brady for 20 fucking years. Like, you have to have a guy that is just ungodly, who can basically be an offensive coordinator for you on the field while he's also communicating with your offensive coordinator. That's the kind of guy you need if you're going to have a defensive head coach.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it does come down a lot to the offensive coordinator. And down in the Texans, they've got Shane Slowick, which I'll admittedly say I don't know a ton about his past, but the guy that I do know is their quarterback coach, Gerard Johnson. He's the guy that I actually wanted the Vikings to go after as a quarterback coach when we hired on this staff, because he was kind of a middling whatever quarterback NFL, but he's had a lot of good success in the league as a quarterbacks coach, and a guy that, you know, has been shown to be able to develop guys pretty well. Like D'Amico Ryans, though, aren't just, you know, dime a dozen as far as
those guys don't grow on trees.
And sad to say it, I think the best one out there right now that is a potential head coach candidate next year is going to be Brian Flores.
Exactly.
Now, again, though, that's really where this question was boiling down to me is can we have defensive coaches become head coaches in the league? I lean more towards, as of right now, no. And with Brian Flores, he would be the outlier this year to me as a guy that could get a head coaching job. And I'm sure that he'll get plenty of interviews based on what he's done with my Vikings defense. However, he still has an open lawsuit against the NFL. I think that is going to play into it a little bit.
For sure.
You know, I'm sure that Vikings ownership got sideways looks bringing him in as a DC. I'm sure that happened last year with Pittsburgh, bringing him in as a linebackers coach. But at some point in time, you have to recognize that a guy is undeniable. Not only is he fantastic at coaching defenses and all parts of the defense, but I mean, his track record there in Miami was great. You know, it was a lot of shady shit going on that led to him being released.
Well, they cut his legs out from underneath of him in fucking Miami.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know what you were expecting the man to do in that situation. And it's not like he had somebody special down there at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
He had, what was it, Fitzmagic, and then Tua. And young Tua was not the same guy that we have seen this year or even parts of last year when he was healthy, who flourished. Like, it took him a little while to catch on. So Brian Flores has not had that guy at quarterback when he was a head coach.
Yeah. And that's, I really am hoping that I think there's a couple things going in my favor with me selfishly wanting Brian Flores to stay another year next year.
Obviously, you don't want to go anywhere what he's doing for your defense. Yeah.
And we'll get to it when I talk about my game as far as how I'm feeling about this team. But like, I think that young, hot-minded offensive guys are going to be what the NFL is looking for. B, he's got the open lawsuit still against the NFL. And C, I think that he is going to be able to be a little bit more picky, choosy about the situation that he goes to, because after going down to Miami and getting burned by ownership there, I think that he's going to he's not going to go to one of these teams that is getting rid of their head coach because, you know, we're, 2-15 and a terrible roster with no quarterback or anything like that. Like, I feel like he's going to be very picky, choosy with where he goes to set himself up for success, because he doesn't want to get burned like he did last time. I mean, his first year with Miami, they were terrible, but he walked into a terrible situation. The second year, he had that shit turned around. So, especially on the defensive side. So those are my hopes that he is able to stay with us a little bit longer. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, Eberflus and the Bears, they are definitely a team to watch as far as coaching changes and big structural changes happening there in Chicago. Along with, there's several teams that, as we get closer to the end of the year, we're really going to have to start calling out, hey, this is where we're looking at head coach changes. Is going to happen during the year.
I'm really worried about Daboll at this point because of how bad they look. The drop off from year 1 to year 2 has been insane. I think Daboll deserves more time, but he's got to find a different goddamn quarterback.
Well, I mean, I can tell you this: if he were to get fired, assuming that the Bills still have their head coach, he'll go right back there.
He will be immediately rehired as the offensive coordinator for sure to right that ship up there with Buffalo.
But at the end of the day, based on the things that we've seen from the Bills, I am not convinced that Sean McDermott's going to last.
Yeah.
Sean McDermott, defensive head coach. Leslie Frazier took the year off, and McDermott retook over the defense, and the defense has been pretty terrible up there. A lot of injuries, but they've not been good. And he might get the finger pointed at him of like, hey, like you've had a window the past couple of years, and it kind of looks like that window is closing.
Yeah,
and he might be on the top.
I thought they had one more year of that window, and it almost certainly does not look like it is. But all right, we'll get to the Bills in a minute. But
we're one game in, and we've already lasted this long, so let's keep trudging along. Next up, we have the Chargers and the Packers being played in Green Bay. You have a line of Chargers -3, over under of 43.5.
Yeah, this game. Normally, like this is pretty easy, and I think it should be easy, but there are some numbers here that kind of favor the idea of the Packers being able to cover this. I don't like the idea of them being able to cover. I get it. They're going out to Green Bay. It's going to be cold and shitty. The Chargers are a LA team. They play indoors, but the Chargers are they're a flat out better team. Jordan Love is a bad fucking quarterback. Like I was over at a buddy's house the other night, and we were trying to figure out 3 quarterbacks that are worse than Kenny Pickett. It was tough to do, but we found 3 quarterbacks that were worse than Kenny Pickett, and Jordan Love is one of them.
I mean, are you counting guys like a Tommy DeVito or something like that?
No. Actual starting quarterbacks. No disrespect to the Paisan, but guys that were supposed to be starters this year that are worse. And I'm not just burying on the Steelers because we're playing today. Having this conversation. My buddy is a Steelers fan who just hates Kenny Pickett. Happy that they're winning, but hates Kenny Pickett. Jordan Love is worse though. He is for sure worse. He is one of the bottom 3 starting quarterbacks in the NFL, probably when you're talking about a consistent every week starter. He has been that bad this year, especially with the off-target throw. So I cannot even think about taking the Packers to cover, even though coming off of a loss, they're 18-6 against the spread. I'm going to go Chargers, and I'm going to go money line because they're the better team. They should win. They should cover 3 as well. I'm just not going to do it because for some reason, the Packers have been pretty good after a loss under Matt LaFleur. So I'm going to go Chargers on the money line.
Well, I've got 2 stats that might help out a little bit here. Maybe not a ton, but at least a little bit. So the Chargers, they are 8-1 in their last 9 games, last 9 road games versus NFC opponents. So that bodes pretty well as far as their spread. And the second fact is that the Packers are legitimately dog shit. So I'm going to go ahead and also take the Chargers money line here. I'm actually siding with Vegas on this one as well. 86% of the money is on the Chargers right now, 79% of the bets. Everyone sees it. Packers are dog shit. Don't care if they're playing at home or not. That team is also in shambles and perfectly fine with that. Next game.
Yeah, I figured you would be.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It's about time. Next game up, we have the Raiders and the Dolphins being played down in Miami. The line is currently Miami -14, over under of 45.5. I am just going to be upfront. I cannot touch that sort of a spread. 14 points. There is some history to why that would be such a large spread, though. I mean, Antonio,
the numbers are insane when you look at the 2 teams. But go ahead, brother. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Antonio Pierce has done a fantastic job up there in Vegas. 2 straight wins. Aiden O'Connell, 2 straight wins. This is the first time a rookie quarterback has had has had this sort of winning streak for the Raiders in a long fucking time. Not that Aiden O'Connell is doing anything necessarily special. It's just you got out from underneath that McDaniels bullshit. But Miami, they are 4-0 straight up and against the spread at home this year with an average win margin of 25 points and 516 yards per game. This is partially skewed by that Denver game where they beat the fucking brakes off them. But like Miami at home this year
has been
throwing that game out.
Buzzsaw.
They have been absolutely destroying teams. Miami is also coming off of a bye this week, which means that they are more healthy and more prepared for this game. And they're getting a Devin Ashing back at running back, which is only going to help expand their offense a little bit. You know, we saw what they were able to do with him and Mostert both out there before, and we could see a lot more of that today. The Raiders are not a very good team. They have been riding that high of having a new head coach in there, an interim head coach. And more power to them. I am happy for the Raiders. I've been picking the Raiders for it. But they're going up against the Dolphins team right now that at 6-3 is still one of the powerhouses out there in the AFC. And they're playing at home where they just dominate everyone. -14 is absolutely possible. At this point in the year, I'm not willing to take that. So I'll be taking the Miami money line to keep it safe. But this one could get out of hand if the Raiders defense doesn't want to show up.
Yeah, so this line opened at -10, and I was full throttle going to hammer anything up to basically -13.5 because I think that they are 2 touchdowns better. But at 14 kind of precludes me from wanting to take the spread because I believe that 14 is the number. They're going to win this game by 2 touchdowns. They have a chance to win it by more because they have been an absolute buzzsaw at home. But with 14 on the dot, I'm not looking to get another fucking push this week. So I'm going to just go Miami on the money line. It seems like a slam dunk. This is probably, if you're in an elimination pool pick, like Miami sounds like a really good pick this week. They're at home. They're getting Ashane back. The Raiders, who are not a great team, have been riding a high. Normally that interim coach magic wears off after a couple of weeks, though, and we're a couple of weeks in. It's Miami on the money line. If it were anywhere near where it started at -10, I'm taking that. If you want to buy it down to 10, I would absolutely take that. But we're going just straight on what the lines are right now. I got to go Miami on the money line.
Absolutely. All right, next up, we have the Giants and Commanders being played out there in Maryland. Line is Washington -8.5, over under of 38.5. And the Giants, they have the worst points per game of any team in the NFL this year at 11.8, and also the worst point differential. They're trotting Tommy DeVito back out there. Obviously, we understand this Giants team is absolutely terrible. We're not expecting to see a whole lot from them. On the flip side, you do have the Commanders, who are technically not out of the playoff race yet, and they have the leading NFL leading in passer yards quarterback, Sam Howell.
Yeah, Sam Howell, man. Hey, the kid's been electric. They are pushing the ball down the field. They are trying to recreate somewhat similar to the offensive style that Kansas City had, and it makes sense why. Bieniemy has been great for that team. They are the better team. Tommy DeVito starting again. Listen, Tommy DeVito, for all the things that he's not, I give the kid a lot of credit going out there, gutting his way through games, trying his ass off. Like, he's not supposed to be an NFL starting quarterback. This Giants team is really bad. I just can't take the Commanders. Is it 9, right?
8.5.
8.5. That's just so many for the Commanders, man. It's so many points for the Commanders. Like, they're not a bad team, and I know the Giants are probably the worst team in football. I cannot give up that many points as, picking the Commanders. I don't have that confidence in them yet, so I can't do it. For me, it's Commanders on the money line and, under. If you want to bet an under, unless the Commanders score fucking 30, I think the under hits again. What's up, 20? Love you, big guy.
How's it going, 20? I might be getting on for some games today, but I've got a lot of work to do around the house, chore-wise, because I've been gone for a little over a week. So we'll see. Yeah, it's the same for me, man. This is a divisional game. As bad as the Giants are, as rough of a quarterback situation as you have with Tommy DeVito out there with the Giants, is a divisional game. That those always tend to play a lot closer. So 8.5 points. The Commanders are easily an 8.5 point better team, but when you're talking about, again, these divisional matches and stuff like that, it could be a lot closer. So I'm not willing to jump on that one either.
All right. Commanders money line for both of us.
Alrighty. Next up, we have the Cowboys and the Panthers. This game is being played out in Charlotte. The line is currently Dallas minus 10.5, over under of 42.5. Dallas, they're 29-14 against the spread since 2021. That's the only stat that I really got going into this, because the Panthers are bad, very, very bad. And the Cowboys are at least above average. I mean, Dak Prescott is quietly playing very well, at least statistically. CeeDee Lamb is putting up some historic numbers. But this is also a Cowboys team that dropped one to the Cardinals. So it's that's going to rest in my head for the rest of the year, I think, knowing that if the Cowboys are at all looking ahead past games, which it's professional NFL football. I don't think that NFL football teams actually do that. I think that's a fake narrative, but they've got the Commanders after this week. And that's, again, divisional game, a little bit of a tougher matchup than the Panthers. So they could be looking ahead to that, but I don't think they will be. I think that the Cowboys probably roll over the Panthers. I'm just going to take the money line on it, though, because you never know when they're going to snooze one up and let a bad team stay close with them.
Yeah, so I was pretty back and forth on the Cowboys at the beginning of the year. Like, I don't know if they're any good. They look pretty good. Then they drop one to the Cardinals. They're an up and down team. Road favorites of at least 7 points are bad on the year, though. They're favored 10.5 in this game is what the line that you got, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's tough to take them against the spread. So I'm not going to do it, because that has not been the trend all year, that a road team of 7 who's favored by 7 points or more, they haven't covered that. They can easily do that. They're better than the Panthers. The Panthers kind of stink. The Cowboys kind of stink every once in a while too, though. They're either really fucking good, they show up and they're really good, or they're not very good. They maybe have a little bit of the play to their opponent syndrome. So because of that, I'm going to go with the Cowboys on the money line as well.
Unless it's the Giants. I mean, they outscored them by like 72 points this year, I think.
Well, the Giants are we were dead set that the Cowboys were going to be the worst team of football. I'm not sure it's debatable. It's the Giants right now, right?
Yeah, it's probably the Giants. Don't make me say the Packers too hard there, but
yeah.
I mean, in reality, the Cardinals season might be changing a little bit more because
Tyler being back.
And he played really well last week.
The Bears have been scrappy depending on who's playing at quarterback.
Yeah,
like it's the Giants or the Panthers, right?
Yeah, it's got to be
one
Giants,
of those
Panthers.
two. Yeah, I feel like it's definitely the Giants.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, next one up here, maybe a little bit more of an interesting game. We have the Titans and Jaguars being played in Jacksonville. The line is Jacksonville minus 6.5, over under of 39.5. Vegas is kind of split on this one. They're leaning towards the Jaguars, but both money and bets are kind of split, just barely leaning over towards the Jaguars. The Titans, they're 0-6 away this year. They have lost every away game. They average only 12 points per game on the road. But Vrabel, he is 25-14-1 against the spread when he's an underdog of 3 or more points. This feels like a Vrabel game where he's just like, no one's expecting anything from us because we're going up against a pretty damn good team here in the Jaguars, even though Jaguars had an ugly one last week. But this seems like a Vrabel game where you're going to see a lot of Derrick Henry, and they might be able to scrap one out. Lawrence, on the other hand, he's 9-15 against the spread coming off of a loss, and this is a divisional game, so that helps narrow the margin a little bit there. And it kind of makes me feel like maybe I should be taking the points with the Titans here. Like, we saw some good things initially when you had old Mayonnaise boy come out there and start playing at quarterback. and credit to him, like he's stood in the pocket. He's got a hell of an arm. He has taken a lot of hits though. Something like in the past 3 games, like 30 something times that he's been touched. So that's going to be rough for Will Levis to stay upright with how bad that offensive line is. But this feels like a sneaky trap game here where the Titans could actually eke one out in Jacksonville.
So they could. I just don't like their chances, man, because for the Titans, going on the road has been abysmal all year. The under has hit in every game that they have played on the road this year, which means they're not scoring any fucking points. Okay? They're 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 road games. They're not putting up hardly any fucking points. Can they grind this game out and slow it down? Maybe. Yeah, if Derrick Henry can get going. Derrick Henry against divisional opponents has had that capability. I don't know if this doesn't feel like a get right game or a get back game. Will Levis really needed to capitalize on the piss poor defense he was playing last week, and that didn't happen. So that doesn't necessarily instill a ton of confidence that they're going to go in there and be able to beat a Jags team. But then again, when you talk about Vrabel against divisional opponents, Derrick Henry against divisional opponents, like there is something there. You cannot negate all of the data like that shows you that this team finds a way against divisional opponents to rise up. Specifically, Derrick Henry, like against divisional opponents, he destroys. This is a tough game for me to call. I've been back and forth. I think that maybe, you know what? I think the talk about Vrabel and all the things going on have kind of convinced me. I am going to go Titans plus the points. Titans plus the 6.5 here. I was going to lean Jags money line just because I think that they're a better team, but I think Titans can keep us close enough because it's a divisional game and all the data that shows that they typically play pretty well. I'm going Titans plus 6.5.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I do think the Jags probably win this game, but I'm doing the same thing. I'm going Titans plus the points because I feel like there's, again, Vrabel does so with his team. Levis has shown that he's a competent quarterback to an extent. Like he's a rookie quarterback, so he's got issues, but I've liked some of the stuff I've seen out of him. And I do think this could be a good pop-off game for Derrick Henry. Let me pull up the weather here real quick because I am seeing something saying that it's going to be rainy there. And if it's going to be rainy, that makes
much better about my Titans
better.
pick. Yeah, if it's rainy and shitty.
Yeah. Yeah, there's, I mean, not a huge, what time is this game at?
It's a 1 o'clock, I want to say, right? Is that the last 1 o'clock?
Yep. Yeah. So it looks like there was some rain this morning, and we're sitting at around like 15% for the rest of the day. So if anything, it'll be drizzly.
Yeah.
But nothing too crazy.
I'm still going Titans plus the points.
Yeah.
Changes nothing for me.
Same. All right. Next up, we have the Cardinals and the Texans being played down in Houston. You have a line of Houston minus 5.5, over under of 47.5. Again, Kyler Murray back out there, looked like Kyler Murray last week. Like didn't look half bad. Yeah. I know I like to hate on Kyler Murray, but like call a spade a spade. He looked pretty decent last week. For that
huge play at the end of the game to get him in position to win.
Yeah. But on the other hand, the Texans went out there and they beat the Bengals last week. CJ Stroud looked really good again. Texans are 5-2 straight up and against the spread in their past 7 games. And we're having legitimate talks right now of CJ Stroud being the MVP of the league. I was
going to ask
not just the offensive player of the year.
I was about to ask you, is Stroud right now top 3 MVP? Like if you take CJ Stroud off that team, this Texans team still that good?
No, Stroud is making this team that good, and like I top 3, absolutely. I think that there is legitimate talk and needs to be legitimate talk about him being the most valuable player to a team in the NFL right now. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anyone else. I mean, like Mahomes is Mahomes. He's probably the best quarterback in the league, but I mean, he's not doing anything. It's weird to say. He's not doing anything necessarily
special.
noteworthy. Like
Right.
it's not like blowing your doors off or anything.
Same thing with a oh Jesus Christ! I just had a brain fart. I was about to say Justin Fields. That's not right. Eagles.
Hurts.
Yeah. Jalen Hurts, another guy that you would have in that conversation, right? But also not having a great year, having a much more down year than he was last year. Tua, we could talk about Tua maybe in that conversation. I would put Tua above a Jalen Hurts or a Pat Mahomes right now because nobody is really standing out and doing anything super special.
I mean,
But CJ Stroud is.
You might have been talking about Lamar before last week.
Yeah, but CJ Stroud is the guy that is standing out the most. Like I don't know if I could pick anybody as my number one MVP right now besides CJ Stroud because he's leaping off the fucking tape every week. This team does not win, period, without CJ Stroud.
As of 4 days ago, the names that are currently being talked about as favorites to win NFL MVP, Mahomes is in the lead, Hurts, Tua, Lamar, Joe Burrow, obviously off that list, and then CJ Stroud and Brock Purdy right behind him. And the way that Stroud has been playing, I'm kind of giving the edge there to him.
Yeah, like that's legit. This is legit talk that a rookie quarterback can and should win the MVP right now.
Yeah, if it were to be picked today, I feel like it probably would be him. And that, whoever's making that selection otherwise would be lying if they said something different because he's just been playing at that level recently. Now getting back to this game, Houston minus 5.5 in this Cardinals team. That again, we're going to see an uplift here from Kyler playing. I still expect Houston to win this game though. I'm not going to drop the 5.5 points. The hook kind of scares me there. I'm going to go Texans money line on this one. But yeah, that's the main talk I think centering around this Texans team right now is that they got two people on this team that are legitimately being talked about as NFL Honors Awards winners here, and that is Stroud as potentially being the MVP of the league. Obviously, got to be taking the Offensive Rookie of the Year, and then Coach of the Year is their head coach right neck and neck with mine. He's talked about it, that is the talk right now is that D'Amico Ryans and Kevin O'Connell are the two names being talked about. And
Stefanski should be in that conversation based on what our record is and our quarterback play, finding ways to fucking win.
Okay, I'll disagree with you there,
okay.
But I like Stefanski as a guy, but I think that he's like got to be close to being on the chopping block some of these times, like with how things are going.
Some decisions that get made will cause some vitriol for sure. But honestly, like when you consider all of the things that have happened, I think he should be in that conversation, but we will agree to disagree. I'm also going Texans on the money line. Listen, Kyler being back could make the Cardinals win this game. So I'm not willing to drop the points. The Texans, I believe, are a better team. I believe the better quarterback is CJ Stroud as well. So Texans on the money line seems like the most sense to me.
All righty. Next up, we have the Bucs and the 49ers being played out in California. The line is San Francisco minus 13.5, over under of 41.5. Hey, the bye week happened. 49ers got a win. They've got guys back. Everyone's forgotten about those 3 losses in a row. Apparently, we're back to almost 14 points as the spread is 13.5.
There's another one that opened at 10.5 and would have loved to have taken it at that.
Yeah, and we're looking right now. It's Tampa Bay's 3-0 against the spread in their last 3 games as a double-digit underdog, which bodes well for Tampa Bay possibly being able to take those points there. But Purdy and the 49ers, last week did absolutely look great. It looks like they're back on track. As far as having everyone healthy, Trent Williams, Debo out there, Purdy's not as concussed. Yeah, McCaffrey didn't, continue his touchdown streak or whatever, but at the end of the day, that's no big deal. Purdy is also 8-1 against the spread at home. He just plays good out there in California. 49ers are, again, and always have been, a really good team. They went through a really weird rough patch there for a couple weeks. But Steve Wilkes is down on the sideline, baby, and they got Chase
That's what
Young.
made all the difference.
Yeah. The 49ers are a good team. They're probably the better team here. I don't see any chance of the Bucs winning this game. Could they keep it within that point spread? Maybe, but that is if the 49ers regress to what they were for those 3 weeks. That's the only way in my eyes it's going to happen. And I don't think that's going to happen. So it's a 49ers money line for me. Yeah, that's pretty much it. 49ers, good team.
49ers are a good team. They also have a very impressive pass rush. The Bucs have not been great. They're up and down. Baker is Baker. I mean, you're going to get some magical performances. You're going to also get some wild dog shit performances. And Baker at times will be very good against the pass rush, but also not great against the pass rush. This pass rush is going to be nasty from this fucking 49ers team. Chase is going to be much more of a factor with Bosa. I actually really like the idea of taking and dropping the points. I would have dropped the points for sure if it were still 10.5, but I can't do it. 13 and a half, I can't do. If it were 10 and a half, I'm dropping the points for sure, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go 49ers money line as well, man.
And at the end of the day, the Bucs, they've beat no one good this year, with the exception of my Vikings, but that took multiple turnovers, and it was still a super close game at the end in week 1 there. But they've beaten the Bears, the Saints, and the Titans. Like, they're not impressive with who they've beaten this year. So they were kind of a early season darling, but I think that's kind of over with them. They're not a great team, and they're going up against just pure roster to roster, a stacked team in comparison.
Yeah, they're very, very good. And I love this question here from Joe Rockstar. So if 4.5, that's what I would set the over under on, 4.5 for Baker on sacks.
That's what I said. I think that I could see 5 sacks.
I could see 5, but I could see less than 5. That's where I would put the number.
Yeah, I think Baker's got a little bit of the mobility where he'll be able to get out of the pocket and possibly have to throw the ball away a little bit more. But yeah, he gets frazzled a little bit with some of the pressure, and he'll take some sacks. So with Chase Young getting another week of reps and everything with that team, and Bosa out there, they're going to be bringing the pressure. I could see 5 sacks.
Yeah, I think Joe's seeing the same thing. 5+ or +5. All right. Ready for the next one, brother?
Yes, sir. All right, next up we have the Jets at the Bills out in New York, Orchard Park. So this is a Bills home game, because they actually play in New York. Buffalo -7.5, over under of 39.5. And as we were talking about earlier, this team is extremely dysfunctional right now.
They're volatile as all shit.
The train has kind of come off the rails. Buffalo, they are 4-0 straight up and 3-1 against the spread in their last 4 games, coming off back-to-back losses. So that makes you think that they should win. And the Bills now have a new offensive coordinator. I'm not sure who is doing that because Ken Dorsey has been fired. Yeah. But at the end of the day, this it truly feels like after taking that loss last week to the Broncos and having 12 men on the field, like the 12 men on the field, that's rough because you had that game and then you gave it to them because the defense fucked up. It feels like the window's closed. Like, sad to say, like Josh Allen, we know how talented he is and how talented he can be, but the turnovers,
bad decisions,
they're continuing to happen. Outside of Stephon Diggs and maybe a little Dalton Kincaid sprinkled in there, like the offensive weapons don't scare me for that team right now. Like I've said it again and again, like they need more receiving help out there and they need to have more of a Mahomes style offense, to be completely honest, a vertical one that is getting the ball out to some playmakers. Because Diggs is great, but Diggs is also getting old, and Diggs is also a diva, and him and his brother are posting shit on social media. Like, I don't see Diggs being with this team again next year. And in the running back room, it's, questionable as well. And what has been kind of a strength on this team on defense looks to be one of their biggest weaknesses. I mean, the injuries are piling up. Von Miller is not what he used to be at all. And I mean, the coaching back there has just not been great. This is tough. They're getting 7.5 points here, and I honestly don't know if I see how that's possible. Like,
I don't either. I think people are starting to get back on the Zach Wilson sucks at football train after Zach Wilson had a couple people fooled for a few weeks. Like, listen, Zach was playing better. I, on this show, have buried Zach Wilson from the day he stepped into the league. He had me convinced that maybe Zach is playing better. And you know what? Zach was playing a little bit better, but Zach can't get in the fucking end zone. That team does not get in the end zone when Zach Wilson is playing quarterback. That is the only reason I can see why the Bills are favored by this much, because the Bills team is reeling. The Jets have been scrappy. They've beat this team once already. They just can't get in the fucking end zone. Zach Wilson cannot put the ball in the end zone with this team. And it's not just Zach, like the entire offense shuts down inside the 20. Everything condenses. Zach can no longer throw the ball. So all they got to do is worry about stopping Brees. That is what is happening to this offense. That's the only reason I can see it being close. But their defense is good enough and keeps them in the games. Like, the Bills have been bad. They are 0-6 against the spread in their last 6. Like, they're fucking terrible right now. And you think that they're going to give them 7.5? They're going to drop 7.5? No way. The Jets plus the points for me, even though Zach Wilson can't get in the end zone, they might score 9 fucking points in this game and keep it within fucking 7.5 because their defense has been that good. I'm going Jets plus the points. I still am not a believer in Zach Wilson by any means. I have never been a believer in Zach Wilson. Even when he was trying to play a little bit better, he still can't get the ball in the fucking end zone. I believe he still has more intercepted. I'll have to check. He might have more interceptions than fucking touchdowns at this point of the year. That's how bad he has been. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm going Jets plus the points. It's a dangerous play. Why I'm doing it, I don't really know, but I'm fucking doing it, and I'm pulling the stats up. He has 5 touchdown passes and 6 interceptions. So, yeah, Zach still has more interceptions than fucking touchdowns. But their defense, I believe in the Jets' defense. I believe in Salah. I'm not a believer in this Bills offense right now, though. Jets plus 7.5. Do they get a lift by firing Ken Dorsey this week?
I mean, it's kind of what I'm thinking could possibly happen. Like, I've been so hard on liking this Bills team, and I know I just said, you know, their window's closing and all this shit, and
but then you hear but still Zach Wilson playing on the other side, more interceptions than touchdown passes. It's tough.
God, I was.
You were dead set that you're going to take the Jets plus the points, huh?
I was up until we started talking, then I was like, the Bills are a better team, man. Go with the Bills. In my gut, sitting here screaming at me, no, take the Jets plus the points. And I'm going to take the Jets plus the points. It's going to be a rain game. We got 69% rain. We got 65% rain, 65. That means the running game is going to be more important, and that's where you have a better running back situation there for the Jets in Brees Hall and that defense. So, got to be Jets plus points here.
Yeah. All right. Jets plus the points it is.
All righty. I feel a lot better about that.
Sorry, Sven.
I was back and forth, honestly, because it's like, it feels like, oh, there's going to be a boost to the offense because Dorsey is gone and they're going to try to figure some shit out. But like, the Jets defense is very solid. They're very good. The Bills, again, are struggling on defense, not just schematically, but also with injuries. The offense is having issues. The biggest thing that the offense has is Josh Allen. But it's going to be difficult to throw the ball with the rain, and he's going to have to run the ball a little bit more, and maybe that works out for him. But yeah, I'm going to take the Jets plus points here. I think that they can keep it within a touchdown and 7.5. I mean, I'll take that extra hook. All right, next up, we got the Seahawks and the Rams. This game is being played out in California.
Yeah.
line is Rams -2 over under a 46.5. That has actually changed a little bit. I'm pretty sure it opened at Rams -1 as well, which is a little surprising to me. I mean, this is a divisional game as well. These teams play each other pretty damn hard. But I wasn't expecting the Rams to be favored in it, even though it's a home game for him. Now, Matt Stafford's going to be back from this one, from his injury, so that'll help provide a little bit of a boost there. But again, divisional game, these teams play each other pretty damn close. And the Rams are 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 games as an underdog. They're not an underdog anymore. When I wrote this, they were at one point in time, but as Rams -2 on this one, I still think the Seahawks are a better team, even though Geno has not been playing as good as he should be.
Mm-hmm.
The line seems a little bit funky to me. Is that just me, or are you seeing that too?
No, I think it's a little weird as well. Now, they did open the season with a loss to the Rams. Like, the Rams have been the bane of the Seahawks' existence. They have kicked the shit out of them. They have covered 6 straight meetings against the Seahawks. Like, the Rams have just had, but the Seahawks are a better team. So it's very tough. It's kind of conflicting data on who you like and who you don't like here. Geno's not playing very well, but they're 6-3. They have a negative point differential, but they're 6-3. How long can the Seahawks keep this up? Because this is kind of reminiscent of your team last year, where, you guys have a negative point differential, but you win, 11, 12 games last year?
13
games with a negative point differential. Can the Seahawks keep that up? I don't think so, because Geno's not as good a quarterback as Kirk Cousins. And I don't know. Their offense is fun. I love their dual running backs, and I love their wide receivers. It's just, I don't know if they're really going to be better, because the Rams have had their number. Sean McVay has had their number. I'm going to ride Sean McVay in the hot hand. I'm going to take the Rams on the money line. I'm not dropping any points. And then if things finally change and the Seahawks can get a win, great. This is one that it's so close for me. I could easily go with the Seahawks plus the points. But Sean McVay is a damn good coach. They're getting their starting quarterback back. I'm going to go Rams on the money line.
Yeah, I'm just going to go with my gut on it. And I like the Seahawks better, even though Geno's not been playing well. I'm going to take the Seahawks plus the points on this one. Rams 1-3 at home this year. Again, a lot of that has happened while Stafford has been away. And the Rams did get a win up in Seattle to start the year off. But I think that the Seahawks team is a better team. So I'm just going to run with that. Like, my gut's telling me that the spread's just a little bit wonky for the Rams to be favored personally. So that's why I'm going to go with Seahawks.
The last time we did this, we were like, why are the Ravens so much favored over this team? Like, we don't get it. And then Vegas knew exactly what the fuck they were talking about. So I'm going to ride with Vegas this time.
Well, so Vegas is actually on the Seahawks for this one. 56% of the money and 62% of the bets are on the Seahawks plus the points.
Interesting.
So I'm going to roll with that one. We will skip over our Sunday night game and jump straight into Monday night, which Monday night looks to be a pretty cool matchup. It is a rematch of the Super Bowl here. We have the Eagles versus the Chiefs out in Kansas City. The line is currently Kansas City -2.5, over under of 45.5. Eagles have covered their last 4 primetime games, and the Monday Night Football unders are 11-1. Do you think we're going to break that trend?
I think that we might see it over. I could see it over in this game. A couple of offenses that, now they might slow it down, but I think an over is a possibility. They are 11-1, but I think we can get another over. I'm tired of watching bad football on primetime games. I want to see an over. So I'm rooting for an over in this game. But how are you feeling on this game? Do you like Eagles? Do you like the Chiefs? I mean, Chiefs coming off of a bye.
Yeah.
Andy Reid after a bye is tough to bet against.
That is very true. He's tough to bet against coming off a bye. He's got a very good record doing that. I'm leaning Eagles on this one, man. Like, I think that, their defense, the defensive struggles that the Eagles have had have been focused around their back end, specifically at the cornerback position. And if there's someone that can exploit that, it's Pat Mahomes, right? But again, I'm not a huge fan of the receiving talent out there in Kansas City. And I really like the Eagles offense, even though they haven't been as good as they should be. But I was going for it too.
Yeah.
Hopefully both teams lose. Well, a tie would be a pretty fucking shitty Monday night game.
Yeah, it would. That would not be great.
Because that's the best we could do. But I'm going to lean on the underdogs here. I'm going to lean on the Eagles. I'm going to take the 2.5 points.
Points?
Yeah. Taylor Swift probably not going to be at this game. You know, that's a huge detriment to Travis Kelce. So we got to pay attention to these things right now. Some places you can even get the Eagles +3. I believe DraftKings has Eagles +3, which if you're able to get that and you want to go for the Eagles, go for it. 69% of the money and 68% of the bets is on the Eagles as of right now. So I'm going to go ahead, Eagles plus the points. I think they have a decent chance of just winning this game outright. So if I'm going to get a couple points, might as well take it.
All right. And I'm going to ride with Andy Reid coming off the bye, man. Chiefs money line. It feels good. They're playing at home. I don't know what they're going to do on offense. They got to figure something out to open up Travis a little bit more because he feels like their only weapon. But I'm not going to bet against Andy Reid coming off the bye. Chiefs money line for me.
All righty. Very cool. So as a reminder, this week we have the Falcons, Colts, Patriots, and Saints all on bye. The news kind of coming out of Atlanta right now, Desmond Ridder is going to be back in as the starting quarterback, which probably is a good thing because Ridder, like Heineke, has been fun and everything. I mean, it's nice to know that you have him there, but Ridder's had really good success at home. So if they want to try to scrap out any more wins, it might be decent to have Ridder out there as your starter. But we can jump back earlier in today's games, a game that's about to happen here in an hour and a half or so. Steelers and Browns divisional game being played in Cleveland, Ohio. The line is Cleveland -2, over under of 33.5. Deshaun Watson out for the year after a great game last week versus the Ravens, where you guys were able to scrape out a win there.
Let's pump the brakes on the great game. Great second half because he was abysmal in the first half. Now,
not necessarily a great game for him, but
he was amazing in the second half, though. He was old Deshaun Watson in the second half with a broken shoulder. So that was impressive to see. This Browns team is able to scrap, to battle, to come back and win a game they probably didn't have any business winning. I mean, you missed the extra point there to tie it up. They're like, okay, fuck. That's right. We're the Browns. That's what happens. And then we find a way to get down into field goal range. Big time plays from David Njoku, running over basically their entire fucking defense. We get our offensive line pushing Jerome forward. We get in the field goal range. We get a massive win against what was apparently the best defense in all of football, right there along with ours. We don't have to worry about a Lamar Jackson this week. We got Kenny Pickett. We were talking about Kenny Pickett being really fucking bad at football. Kenny Pickett is bad at football. Our defense is going to eat. We are not going to have that emotional letdown from losing Nick Chubb in the middle of this game. We've already known that Deshaun Watson is going to be out for this game. It's going to be
and for the rest
fun,
of the season.
And for the rest of the season. It's going to be fun and interesting to see the way DTR responds because now he's getting another shot. He's going to get another shot to start, something that I've been asking for. Give him a full week of prep, knowing that he's going to be a starter, and let's see what happens. If it's not going well, you know what we could always do? Pull him the fuck out and put PJ Walker in. But let's give the younger guy who has more upside an opportunity, a good opportunity, to go out there and prove what he can do by giving him all the reps. I love this. I'm excited for today. I think that we are going to be able to move the ball a little bit against this really good Steelers defense as well. And all we got to do, we just got to lock down Pickens. If we can lock down Pickens, we're going to be just fine. The running backs don't scare me, even though Jaylen Warren has now been listed as RB1. Kind of saw that coming earlier in the season. Jaylen Warren is on multiple fantasy teams of mine because Najee's just not that dude. I think the Browns are set up to kind of take the next step. We need to see a big performance in DTR. I'm not willing to drop any points in this game, but I love the Browns on the money line. They should win this game and kind of get us into position to possibly go and contend and win a division title, especially after coming off a huge win last week, getting the Ravens. So I got Browns on the money line.
And that was going to be my question, is with Deshaun Watson being out for the year, what do you see as the forecast for the rest of your season?
Wild card still. This defense is good enough to take us to 10, 11 wins.
Do you think that you'll get to the wild or get a wild card spot? Do you think that you'll be able to win a wild card game?
I think we will get a wild card spot. Winning a wild card game will be much tougher, especially in the AFC. I'd have to check the standings right now to see who. Looks like we would probably be playing the Chiefs in the first round. The Ravens right now would currently be the 1 seed. So winning that divisional game would be tough if we get in as a 6 spot. We might be the 5 right now, though. I'm not 100% sure where we're sitting in the playoff standings.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at. Is I think that
if DTR or PJ Walker gets us to the playoffs, that's a fucking win on the season, in my opinion.
That's the thing, is I think that you guys and take this as with a grain of salt. You might be able to limp into the playoffs at this point, because the losing Deshaun Watson definitely changes things, but it doesn't completely spoil the dynamics of this team. The Browns passing offense this season, they're last in completion percentage with 56.5%. They're last in their touchdown to interception ratio in the league, which is a 0.7. And they're last in passer rating with 66.9. Now, a handful of these games have been without Deshaun Watson, but even with Deshaun Watson in there, he's not been fantastic. We've seen some steps in the right direction for him, but he's about to miss a whole bunch more football. And smash mouth football, typically that run plus the super strong defense, that's more of an old school brand of football. It's good for the cold weather, good for the environment that you guys are playing in. But in general, as of late, that isn't a recipe to win you a lot of playoff games. And running the ball, I don't know that is necessarily your forte as much anymore, because you don't have Chubb out there.
We've been pretty decent over the last few weeks,
finding
ways to kind of run the ball, not the traditional way we would with Nick Chubb. So we've been good.
That's what I'm saying. It's not that you have a bad run game. It's just not like a powerhouse.
It's not
right?
the same.
It's not like you're trotting like the 2012 Vikings, where we just had Adrian Peterson as our whole offense type thing. Like, you can get into the playoffs and possibly win a game with that, but it's not super likely. Steelers, they're 13-5 against the spread right now. The last 2 seasons when TJ Watt is playing. Obviously, TJ Watt is going to be playing in this game. The under has also hit in 7 of the last 8 Browns home games. And the under is 7-3 in Browns home games versus the Steelers in their past 10 meetings in Cleveland. But I'm kind of in agreement with you here. I like the Browns to win this game. I think that your guys' defense is stout enough to really put a hurt on Pickett. You won't have that emotional letdown like you brought up with Chubb. I'm not going to drop the points. It's Browns money line for me. I'm interested to see what DTR does out there. And again, you do have that safety net of PJ Walker. Not that safety net is going to be like fantastic, but at least you probably have a little bit more of normalcy, or being able to.
He's won games for this team already.
Yes.
Yeah, PJ's won games for this team already. And you brought up some interesting numbers. You said we're completing 57% of our passes. We're throwing less than a touchdown a game, right? I don't know if you remember me saying this about Deshaun Watson. This goes for really any quarterback that we have. This Browns team is good enough to win every single game as long as our quarterback can play halfway decent. All we need for every single game, 60% completion percentage, 1 touchdown pass a game. That is all we need from each one. If we can get that consistently, this team wins 11 games for sure, especially based on the rest of our schedule. That's all we got to do. And that is not asking for very much. 60% is like the low benchmark where a quarterback needs to be in the NFL. And 1 touchdown is not too much to ask for. If we can get that, that is a winning recipe for the Browns. That's all we have to do. 60% completion percentage, 1 touchdown a game. Done.
All righty. Both on the Browns money line. We'll see here in about an hour and a half. That takes us to our last game, Sunday Night Football tonight. My little house rivalry game. Vikings at the Broncos. The line is currently Denver -3 on Caesars, over under of 41.5. I actually got this number earlier this morning at 2.5. And so I'll just say I'm taking the Vikings plus the points on this one. If I was able to get the Vikings +3, I would absolutely take that as well. You brought up, we had some comments here earlier, $20 to $20. He was streaming earlier this week. You were playing a little bit with him, and I popped onto his stream and I said, best bet of the week, Vikings plus the points. Because I feel really good about this game. Vikings are 4-0-1 against the spread on the road this season. So they're playing good against the spread. Minnesota defense is kind of one of the highlights here that we can talk about with the team. Their first 3 games, they were allowing 27.3 points per game. Their last 7, they've been allowing 18.1 points per game. That Brian Flores has really turned things around here with arguably a worse defensive roster than we had last year, but he is making them play very well. And getting a lot of productivity out of it. I think that we possibly have the best trio of safeties in the NFL because that trio is on the field a lot between Harrison Smith, Cam Bynum, and Josh Metellus. Those guys
I love
are doing
the big nickel defense. Love the big nickel defense.
It's hyper aggressive, tons of blitzing. We saw a drop in blitzing last week. And that's the thing is Brian Flores is putting out different schemes almost every single week with what they're doing that all do kind of focus around that 3-4 big nickel type of setup. The interesting thing too with this team is that we're either rushing 3 guys or 6. It's 3 or 6. You're not seeing 4 or 5 in there. It's really interesting. They're either bringing a shitload of pressure or they are dropping 8 into coverage. And it's been working. I mean, the stats are bearing it out that, this sort of pressure is working out for this team. And it's the most fun I've had watching a defense for the Vikings in like 3-4 years. I mean, since the Zimmer Hellfire defense kind of faded away, the brand of defense that Flores is putting out there in the field is boom or bust, but it's super fun to watch. And then on the flip side of the ball, you've got AK-15, Alopecia King doing great things. I mean, great story. Knocked Taylor Swift off of the NFL social media pages, and it's now all AK-15 out there, and I love it. It's a fun story. I don't expect things to necessarily change. I expect him to kind of continue to grow as a player and the offensive playbook to grow and adjust to having a running style quarterback. We saw it again last week. Things adjusted, looked pretty good. He looked real good in the first half. Things definitely slowed down in the second. And part of that is that, we knocked Derek Carr out of the game. Jameis Winston comes in. And the thing with Jameis Winston is he's a gunslinger, but he's a wild man. He's going to throw some interceptions, which he did. But he's also going to be throwing some touchdown passes. The guy just throws the ball all over the damn place. And you can't really predict too much of what he's going to do. This week, we're going up against Russell Wilson. Does not have the same arm strength that he used to. His accuracy is better than it was last year. And he overall looks better than he did last year. Javonte Williams, good running back. But I think that it'll be a pretty decent matchup between our defense and their offense. And then it comes down to the Broncos defense. They've been playing better as of late, but at the end of the day, we're talking about a Broncos team that has won 3 straight, but I think they're kind of fluky wins here. All right. We have the Kansas City flu game for Patrick Mahomes, right? And that's a game that, again, I wanted to bet the Broncos and I didn't, and I kicked myself for doing it. I'm going to kick myself all year. They beat Green Bay. Green Bay's dog shit. All right.
I kicked myself for that one. I don't know why the fuck I took Green Bay.
And then last week, they beat Buffalo, but Buffalo beat themselves. Buffalo is playing a terrible brand of football. We have said that the window's closing, and Buffalo should have won that game.
Yeah.
Except for they had 12 men on the field on defense.
Yeah, they actually did win that game, except for the future NFL Comeback Player of the Year was on the field when he shouldn't have been.
Yeah. So, like, these are, we could be a very different script here for the Broncos if they weren't playing in these sorts of games. So there's a hype train right now about the Broncos actually being a little bit better and everything like that. I think that they are still a middle of the pack to below average team in general. that has had a streak of good luck. Whereas my Vikings have gone from the beginning of the year having their struggles, particularly with turnovers, but still being competitive with every team. And every game they've been in has been competitive. And to now kind of showing more of their true colors. And overall, as a team, like what Kevin O'Connell has brought to this team has been outstanding. The type of spirit that he has in these guys, it is one game at a time, and just keep one foot in front of the other, and it's been working out. They've been super fun to watch, super enjoyable story for me. I feel like I'm playing with house money watching this team right now, because like I don't expect this to be a Super Bowl team at this point. But I guess you never know. I mean, if Josh Dobbs keeps playing at the level that he's playing at, like we could win a playoff game. We could win a couple playoff games, maybe. Like they're playing really well. It sucks that JJ is not going to be out there again this week. It is probably the smart thing to do. Make sure that he's super healthy for the rest of the season. And I don't see any way that he wouldn't be back on the field next week. But unless we were to drop this game and something like Alopecia King gets hurt, then the season is definitely lost. But I am super stoked with how this team has been performing, super stoked for this game. We don't have to talk about Kirk Cousins' primetime game issues. It is all Alopecia King shining in the spotlight out there in Denver. Super stoked to see this game. I'm obviously going to be taking the Vikings plus the points. Today on here on Caesars, it is +3, so I'll take the +3.
Okay.
Like I said, I got a bunch of actual money bets in where I did, just Vikings money line. I did Vikings plus the points. I did Vikings plus some other games on there. I got them all at 2.5. So feel a little bummed about that, but I'll definitely take the 3 points. I think they're going to win this game.
All right. Same. And then we got the comment in here from Josh Decker. Denver basically started every drive last week in Buffalo territory and couldn't do anything against a beat up defense. They are frauds. I know Josh Decker, and he is a Broncos fan. So that is not a pile on the Bills or anything like that. He's a Broncos fan, and he thinks that they're frauds. And I kind of tend to agree. The Bills have not been great. You guys have been very good. You've covered in 5 straight. Now, I do have a question for you. We talked about Josh Dobbs, Alopecia King. Is he your only solid, healthy quarterback, or is Jaren Hall now healthy as well?
Jaren Hall is out. He still is out with the concussion symptoms. Nick Mullins has been activated to the 53-man roster, so he is our backup.
Okay. When Jaren Hall gets back, and I'm wondering, you follow the Vikings obviously very closely. Is there a possibility of seeing Jaren Hall in some games for some packages? Because the times that he was in there, he looked very, very good. Is it possible that we could see maybe a little bit of a combo, Jaren Hall or AK-15, the Alopecia King?
I don't think so. Barring a injury or the season being lost. If we get to a point where we are like eliminated from playoff contention, we can't even make a wild card, then I do think that that's what the Vikings will do. They'll probably put Jaren Hall out there to continue to see what he has, because his couple drives in Atlanta looked pretty good. So want to see what he's got there, because long-term backup potential, he's got that. I personally am. There's a lot of talk right now about Kirk Cousins and is he going to come back?
And him being done, and Alopecia King being the guy that takes over for at least a year.
Well, that's the thing, is I don't even think I don't think that this team would be smart to not go out and draft a quarterback next year, regardless of the situation. We need to start looking towards the future. But if Kirk Cousins is willing to come back and the team wants him back, but if he's willing to come back for a significantly lower number, the way that he's been playing, obviously when healthy, he's been outstanding. I mean, he's still top 10 in NFL passing yards leader, and he hasn't played in 3 weeks. So, like, that kind of shows you how fucking good he was playing. If he's willing to take a heavy discount, like, I'm not necessarily against bringing him back, especially if his rehab looks like it's trending like Aaron Rodgers' rehab.
I think that relationship's probably about run its course, though.
I mean, the team loves him. Kevin O'Connell loves him. and Kirk Cousins loves playing there for the Vikings. So it sounds like a match made in heaven if they can come together on a number. But the more that Josh Dobbs keeps playing like he's playing, it shows the versatility of this offense with a mobile quarterback. I am 100% for bringing Josh Dobbs back in as either a bridge starter to a rookie who hopefully would take over at some point, or as like a primary backup, just because like you see what you can do with him right now, especially without much preparation.
Yeah.
And the more preparation that you're giving the guy, he's looking better and better. So like I am super happy because it's like we got a bevy of great options. If Kirk Cousins wants to take a discount, cool, we'll bring you back and you can go ahead and put up these stupid statistical numbers again. Also draft a quarterback, and that'll be the guy in wait in a year or so to take over for him, and it won't be a problem. Or we can just say, hey, we'll go with Josh Dobbs on the cheap and bring in a rookie quarterback. And if the rookie looks really good, we can start him. If not, we're not like out of it because we got Josh Dobbs there, and he's obviously a solid, consistent performer. Like,
I'm very happy for you and for having Josh Dobbs. It just makes me very sad for my team.
yeah, I mean,
He started the year as a Brown. He was on the Browns.
Yeah.
And then we traded him away.
But the way that DTR played in the preseason was enough.
That's why I'm very excited to see DTR today with a full week of prep. And I'm very excited for that.
You know, DTR gets bashed on a lot because he did play the one game and looked horrendous versus the Ravens. But
playing the best defense in the league and then fucking has no prep time. 2 hours prior. Hey, brother, you're starting. I'm sorry, I'm fucking doing what now?
Exactly.
Right.
That's we talked earlier in the week when we saw that DTR was going to be named as the starter. Like, this is a solid opportunity for the kid to go out and show what he's going to do. I don't think he's going to, beat the brakes off the Steelers necessarily, but this is a good kind of mild game for him to get started.
Block TJ Watt. 60% completion and 1 touchdown, and we win this game. That's all he's got to do.
So you block TJ Watt and let him go out there and just be a game manager for a little bit. Get a couple nice underneath throws to get him feeling comfortable, and let your defense take you the rest of the way. It's a good one for him. But I'm super stoked about the Vikings currently. I'm stoked about their future and the future prospects there. A lot of fun to watch this team. Like, it is. Last year, I was super excited because we were winning so many games and having such a good year. But me and everyone else kind of had that feeling of being like, this feels like an outlier right now because we're barely winning all these games and having a negative point differential. This year feels different. Like, this team feels better than they did last year. They are way more fun to watch. They're just an exciting team to watch. So I'm ecstatic with the team right now. I'm super happy. I'm not saying we're going out and winning the Super Bowl, but I'm super stoked with how everything's going.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, brother, that is our last game, right?
That is the last game.
You got anything else for the people before we decide to get the fuck out of here?
No, I believe that's it. Should be good to go and sit down, watch some football. I need something to fucking eat, and I probably need to take a big old grumpy here.
Yeah,
because I just woke up. But just woke up almost 2 hours ago. But yeah, get ready for some football, get some food in me, and enjoy my 1 day weekend before I go back to work.
Yeah, hell yeah. All right, guys. Well, this is the Lineman Lounge. I'm Mike. That is Evo. We are back every week. We come to you guys on early in the week. We cut a little clip. Make sure we get you the Thursday games. We'll be doing that at some point again this week before Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody as well, since we are not going to get to see you live before then. But if you want to interact with the show, go to our Facebook group, Twitter at Lineman Lounge. We got TikTok, Instagram, all the social medias. If you want to watch these shows back, go to our YouTube page, hit the bell, subscribe, like it, share it with your friends. We greatly appreciate that. And if you just want to listen, any podcast platform, you're going to be able to listen to these beautiful voices. And yeah, that's it, guys. We're going to get the fuck out of here. I'm going to go upstairs. I got to use the bathroom as well. And I'm going to get ready to watch some football. But we appreciate you. We love you. We'll see you guys next week.